Hi, my name's Charles Rosell, and I wanted to share with you in this video a brief story of how I came to believe in God from initially a very atheistic position, and basically share that story with you. So during my teenage years, all the way up till I would say the age of 18, I was a convinced atheist. I loved science and technology. I basically absorbed a worldview that said that the Big Bang followed by evolution explained everything we can see around us. To be honest, I hadn't really thought about it in depth, and I more absorbed that understanding or belief system from those around me, from my school teachers and from people who I admired. But you could probably have challenged me and found that I couldn't really justify that position strongly, but it's what I had kind of absorbed unconsciously. Now, somewhere around my 18th birthday or approaching that time, something began to shift, and I began to develop what I would now call a spiritual hunger. I just knew there had to be something more than I could put my finger on or explain rationally through my scientific worldview. And that hunger started to express itself in trying things with a certain kind of spiritual dimension, trying to get some kind of spiritual experience, I would actually honestly say. One of the things I did try at that time was, Buddhist style meditation, which is kind of fashionable at the time. And also I tried just creeping into the back of Catholic churches that were open and just trying to sense if there was something more than meets the eye, just to absorb whatever was there. So I was in this kind of searching mode, and at that time I transferred from high school to university and moved up north to Manchester, England. And there was what we call a freshers' fair, which is basically where all the university societies and clubs try to attract new members, and they have representatives of all the major religions and folk music, every kind of interest there. And I was kind of drawn towards some of them, but I wasn't ready to commit to anything at that point. But one thing that did change in my life was when a friend of mine who I was pretty close to and was attending the same course as me one day explained that he'd come to know Jesus at a personal level and that he was born again, essentially. That was completely a surprise to me, and I had no idea that this kind of thing could infect people who were under 60 years of age. So his honest and frank discussion of what had happened to him was kind of eye-opening for me and raised my level of curiosity many notches, I had to say. And at the same time, I was starting to have a few encounters with people who were essentially evangelists and trying to convert me. I had a 3-minute conversation coming home one night from the computer lab, and someone engaged me with a tract and talked to me about John 3:16 and also several other verses, which just went rapid fire right past me, and I had no idea what was being said, but I just knew someone cared enough to try to talk to me about it. And similarly, in our halls of residence, people were knocking on doors and sharing Jesus, and I didn't give them a whole lot of encouragement at that time, but the fact that people were doing that did strike me as there's something there more than meets the eye. People really think there's something to communicate. Now, one decisive event was I was invited shortly after my friend converted to a lecture in my hall of residence, which was about the historical Jesus. And basically, for the first time, pinned down the fact that Jesus was a historical figure, that there was many witnesses to his existence in literature, that he did walk the earth, that he did die, and the claim was that he was risen again. And the challenge put to us at that point was, could you come up with a better explanation for the way that the early disciples were made powerful? These were not educated men. They became powerful speakers, able to talk to large crowds and bring people into an experience of Christianity, and essentially to turn the world upside down. And frankly, at that time, I had a very hard time putting a better explanation than he was offering, which was, you offer a better one, but did Jesus really raise from the dead? And if he did, that means something. So after that evening, I was pretty much convinced that Jesus was a historical figure, not a fairy tale, that he did walk this earth, and frankly, that his resurrection was what empowered the church, the early church, and even against powerful forces like the Roman Empire, was able to triumph and spread across the whole world. So actually, on that very same evening as I heard that lecture, someone asked me, if that's what you believe, what's hindering you from asking Jesus to come into your life and for you to surrender your life to him? Isn't that the appropriate thing to do? So I actually had no comeback. I actually didn't even want to have a comeback. I was convinced of the facts, and I really wanted in at that point. So I pretty much immediately said my first prayer. I shut my eyes and invited Jesus into my life, and said that I knew that his way was the right way. What I'd been doing up to now wasn't adequate, that I wanted to have my life governed by him. So instantly I started to say that prayer. I felt a presence with me, just an invasion of a peace and a presence that I couldn't possibly describe. And that was kind of confirmation to me at the time that all of this was real, that it could be experienced directly, even by somebody who wasn't 60 years old, but by many people of all ages and of races. So that was the start of my journey. I did pray that prayer. I did push in to try to learn more from studying the Bible and basically taking the steps of baptism and all these things. But the real turning point was believing that Jesus was real and he raised from the dead. And I'm so grateful to those people who are around me at university who prodded me in the right direction, who were willing to share the things that had happened to them and basically changed my mind from thinking that Christianity was irrelevant to believing it was the real deal.